and welcome back to another Big Blue Amusement Productions coaster review. Today, I will be reviewing Valravn, which is Cedar Point's B&M dive machine. Now, before I get into the review, I just want to acknowledge how much of an impact this coaster makes on the Cedar Point skyline. It absolutely dominates the front left side of the Cedar Point Midway, and you can see it pretty much from anywhere in the park. No wonder this coaster is such an eye-catcher for the general public. Now, before I explain my thoughts on it, let's do some stats in the history of Cedar Point's dive coaster. Valravn opened in 2016 and broke the records for the tallest, fastest, and longest dive coaster in the world, and still holds those records in the United States. The world records were later broken 3 years later at Canada's Wonderland with Yukon Striker. Valravn stands 223 feet tall, has a drop of 214 feet, reaches the speeds of 75 miles per hour, and has a total track length of 3,415 feet of track. The history of Valravn goes all the way back to February of 2015, when the Sandusky Register was first to report about a memo that was leaked from B&M to Cedar Point that described details of a $15 million record-breaking dive coaster to go in the spot of the Good Time Theater. Then later that year, Cedar Fair filed a trademark for the name Valravn. Then later that summer, someone found and leaked the proposed logo of Valravn and the layout rendering of the ride. Then the coaster was set to be announced in August of 2015, but it was delayed due to a very unfortunate incident where a guest was killed by raptor that same month. The coaster was finally announced in September of 2015, and many were actually surprised at the name being used, as many speculated that due to the incident involving raptor, Cedar Point wanted to choose a different name since Valravn was essentially a bird revolving around death, and many thought Cedar Point wouldn't want to use a name surrounding death. Valravn's construction continued through the winter, and the ride finally opened on May 7th of 2016. Now let's get into the ride experience of Valravn. First, you leave the station and go into this little dip and left turn, and then you go up the massive 223-foot lift hill. On your left while going up, you get a great view of the Sandusky Bay and the Cedar Point Marina, and on your right, you get a great view of the park. Then, once you crest the top, you get a nice view of the whole park and lake surrounding you, and then you crest the edge and slowly hit the holding brake and stare down this 214-foot drop facing straight down. Then, after 4 seconds of waiting, you plunge down the drop and go into this massive Immelman. Then you swoop up into this giant upward right turn into the mid-course brake run under the drop. This is a big complaint I have with this coaster is the brakes. These brakes on this mid-course come hard and kill all the momentum you had. Basically, the train comes to a complete stop on the mid-course, and I am not a fan of that. I understand why it's there, but I just wish the brakes didn't kick in so hard, basically killing all the momentum. Then you plunge down another drop and go into a dive loop. Then you go into my favorite part of the ride, which is the 270-degree roll. You get some nice hang time in that inversion, not Copperhead Strike level, but decent hang time. Then you twist down and go into an airtime hill that gives absolutely no airtime whatsoever, and then you hop into the brakes. Then that includes your ride experience. Now let me say, I don't hate Valravn. It's a very fun ride, but like other enthusiasts, I do consider this ride a one-trick pony. My biggest pet peeve with this ride is actually not the layout, but the restraints on this ride. B&M put their wing coaster vest restraints on this ride, and these restraints are tight and make it virtually impossible to experience any airtime on the drops or on that last airtime hill. I think Valravn would have been so much better if it had the standard over-the-shoulder harnesses like Griffin and Sheikra do. Now, if I were in charge of Cedar Point, would I have added this coaster? At first, I was thinking no, but after thinking about it and taking a long, hard thought about it, I want to say why I still would have added this and why they chose to add it, because this coaster actually makes business sense if you think about it. To explain it, we have to go back to my 8th grade year. I was just getting into coasters back then, and I was more GP back then. But I remember hearing about the Cedar Point dive coaster rumors back then, and hoping they were true, actually, because I had never ridden anything like this before. I then remember hyping up Valravn to all my classmates and teachers, saying I was going to Cedar Point that summer to ride this cool new ride being built that I have never ridden anything like before. Then I got to the park and rode it for the first time, and then I recorded a reaction video for my friends to see on Instagram. And I will go ahead and actually play that video for you right now so you can see it.
Hi everybody. I had just rode Valravn, middle row, and holy moly, that was insane. Hello. I am very happy I got to do this. I have been looking forward to doing this all year, and oh my gosh, I think this place as the #1 coaster at Cedar Point. I haven't ridden Millennium yet, but it is a great ride, so thank you guys.
As you can see, I was basically acting how I would react after getting off rides like Steel Vengeance, Maverick, or Fury 325. Well, here's the thing. The GP will find these rides insane, and these are GP magnets. I took my dad on this ride in the front row a couple years later, and he loved it because of the dangling before the drop sensation. That's the whole reason you add a dive coaster, because these things please the general public. You gotta remember that 99.9% at around that number of the park's revenue and attendance come from the general public. And these rides attract people, and back in 2015 when this ride was being planned, there were only 2 of these in the United States at the 2 Busch Gardens parks. And how many people of the average general public go to Cedar Point and the 2 Busch Gardens parks? Likely not much, so it makes sense to bring one of these over there. So for the final score of Valravn, I will be giving it a 6 out of 10. So solid, not a bad score. So Valravn isn't bad, but it's just not my cup of tea. And Valravn is a ride I don't really mind skipping or just riding once when I go. I would just rather ride Steel Vengeance, Maverick, and Millennium Force more. Now, do I recommend you ride it? Absolutely. It's a ride I recommend everyone try. If you're into the sensation of dangling and one-trick ponies, then I definitely think that you would like Valravn. Again, this ride isn't for everyone, and that's why there are 15 other roller coasters at America's Roller Coaster. So I want to hear from you. What do you think of Valravn? Let me know in the comments below. And make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss another video, and I will see you guys later.